So today, so last week we were just setting up our lab. This week we are going to be talking about reconnaissance and information gathering. Reconnaissance is the stage where we actually figure out what we're doing. This is the part that a lot of people don't do and get kind of bored with, especially when they're learning, because this isn't overly technical, but this is very, very critical. You can't go and rob a bank without making a plan first. Every heist movie you guys have seen, Ocean's 11, 12, 13, other heist movies that elude me, they have, this is the montage section of the film, where they're actually doing the prep work and figuring out how they're going to infiltrate, approach, overcome, and win. So that's what we're going to do. The famous line is, know your enemy. So we do recon so we can know our enemy and we can know what we're doing. If we're going to be successful in our attack, what do we need to know? Conrad, got an idea?
We should start off with their IP address, what sort of software they're running, what sort of server they have.
Fantastic. Yeah, you got to know their software, you got to know their server, you got to know where they are. You can't just go randomly kicking down doors and going, is this a bank? Okay, next one. Hey, is this a bank? 3 or 4 doors down, the police are going to be waiting for you. You don't rob a bank by going door to door. So, like you said, you need to have the IP address, know their software, what language do they program it in? Because every language has its own vulnerabilities. What server, what hardware they're using. Any information that you can get can help you better attack, better actually execute your attack. And finally, you're figuring out how you're going to attack. You need to know what it is so you know how. You can look it up online, you can research, you can find the vulnerabilities. Just walking in and going up to a computer and trying to, without knowing what's on it, what's in there, you have a huge array of possible vulnerabilities, and you have to narrow it down by knowing what is actually there. So how do you do this? How can you guys get some recon?
Interweb.
Yep, the inner tubes are awesome. We have, one of the best places to get information about places is their own website. You go there, they will post their news section, things that they've been involved in. You can usually find job postings. What's that?
Names.
Names, yep, if you're going to do some social engineering.
Person.
And if you can find out if somebody's out of the office, or salespeople like to respond to you. If you send out an email to a salesperson, you don't even care about their response. You just want to get their email back. Because in their email, it's got header information that's going to tell you what software it's using, and what software, what version, and sometimes even the server that it's running. You've got a wealth of information just by getting somebody to reply to you. If you send them a non-malware type executable, you'll usually get an email response that tells you what antivirus they're running. It's really nice of them to know exactly who you've got to trick to get in the door. So yeah, you can do some scouting. Check job posting websites. They're going to be listing what kind of programmers you're looking for. You're going to be able to figure out what languages they're writing and what exploits you can take. Check tech support forums. If you can, off their website, get their email address or kind of their base email structure, you can start searching and using search tools to go through forum pages. Because if they have a problem with their router or something else, number one, you know they've got a problem with the router. Number two, you know which router it is. Sometimes you can even find them on social media. And people say, oh, darn, my antivirus crashed. I guess we're going to be living dangerously for a week. Hey, great opportunity right there. I'm going to go to that later. There are some other very good tools out there, but we do have some tools built into the machines that inside of our penetration testing lab here with Cal. We've got a lot of built-in machines and ones that aren't necessarily built in. Now, before I should go any further, we've got to do the standard oath that I've been having you guys say, is I will not be evil. Come on. I will not be malicious.
I will not be malicious.
I will only be slightly obnoxious.
I will only be slightly obnoxious.
Okay, fantastic. Because again, we're not teaching you guys this to go out there and wreak havoc. We're teaching you guys this so you can go out there and secure your systems better so that you are not subject to this. So one of the first tools I want to talk about is HT-Track. HT-Track is a website copier. Now the very first thing I should say is website copiers are kind of offensive. You are going through and grabbing an entire website and storing it on your hard drive. People don't like it when you take all their stuff. So, as always, number one step in penetration testing is get permission. So, let's see if this monitor comes up here. H-track. I feel like I'm saying 8-track. Much more modern technology than that. Somebody coming up here? Okay, I'm stalling for time. We are now up. Good. Just needed a little jig. That's too dark. Okay, well, we're going to go dark for a minute. All right. So I've booted into my Kali Linux box, and I've opened up a terminal. We do just about everything from terminal. And of the many tools that have been installed, this isn't always one. So if anybody wants to follow along with this, go ahead. Make sure that if there's any particular type site that you are chasing after, that you have permission, you think you could get permission. Don't do this after any random person. To install it, as always, sudo apt-get install httrack. I've already installed it, so it's already there and running, but you can just run through the standard apt-get to get it. Once you have installed it, as always, there's 1,000,001 command line options. We're not going to stress about those command line options today. It's actually got a nice little wizard that if you just type it in, you can go. So the first thing is your project name. This is going to be the folder that it saves it in. I am going to... So here's my plan. I believe that it will be acceptable for us to do this on the penguin.ewu.edu website. I think we can get permission for that. Problem is, that's a huge website. So why don't we break this up into areas so that each person can actually work within their area. When you guys through it, we can experiment with it during the lab portion. With the project name, I'm just going to call it Penguin. Base path is just where it's going to save it to, and then the URL. It's 433, isn't it? Or is it 333?
Just 330.
330. So you have some options. You can mirror the site, mirror it with the wizard, just get specific files, mirror all links in the URLs. This one can take a while because if it's linked to external sites, it will go to those sites as well. And it can test links in URLs. If you guys are developing a website and want to make sure all your links work, number 5 is a good option. Or non-malicious use. In this case, we're just going to mirror the websites, and we don't need a proxy. Wildcards lets you refine what it retrieves. You can say, you know what, I really don't care about the images. So if you do a minus star period GIF, it's going to remove your images. This works very similar to regular expressions, and it will tell it if you want it to follow into other links and stuff as well. You can get more information on this on the HTrack website, HTtrack website. For the moment, I'm not going to worry about any wildcards or any additional options. Once you're ready to launch, just say yes, and it's going to start to go. So I tried on Penguin earlier, and it was so huge it took forever. I'm hoping that CSCD 330 takes a little less time. While we're waiting for that, if you guys don't mind multitasking, why would this be a handy tool to have an offline copy of the website? Any ideas? Well, yeah, you can crash it. You don't get full functionality. You only get the HTML that renders. You don't get their actual code. That would be awesome and totally insecure. If you get that, then their site is completely misconfigured.
Yeah.
But
It's for eval.
it's good for eval, yep, and it's offline. So the nice thing is you are not constantly logging into their site or jumping through their hoops. You've got one copy. And if you got a local, you can use tools. You guys are programmers. You can write scripts. You can parse for information. And another thing is websites have a weird hierarchy. Instead of having to go through and go, have I been to this page before? Have I been to this page? Can I make a guess at what another page is? you have all the files in one folder in the appropriate directory. So it makes it much easier to figure out their structure. Another thing that you can do is if you're trying to do this anonymously and your tools aren't home, you could create a copy at a anonymous internet location. Somebody who had, if you went to a coffee shop or something, you'd be able to go in there, make your copy, take it home, and then you wouldn't have to worry about your IP address being logged or any access for your own personal computer. So we'll come back to this when and if it finishes. Theoretically it should.
Lights?
I would expect it to be. Now we're going to keep talking here a little bit. So, one of the other things that we said we talked about are something called Google Directives. How many of you guys have used Google Directives before? Nobody? Okay, super powerful tool. Let's show them to you. So inside of Google, if you go to the Google website, you can specify specific qualifiers to refine your search. You have options such as only search a specific site, check for information in title, check for information in URL, check for information in the title, or even checking information based on the file type. Why would being able to specify your file type be handy? Anybody got any ideas? No ideas. Okay. The reason file type is handy is how do a lot of people save their, what do a lot of people do that you're not supposed to do when it comes to passwords that are hard to remember? They write them down, they keep it in a file. People love to have Excel files with their passwords. By being able to specify your file type, you're able to search the site that's already been searched. You're not even touching their site. They can't even see that you've been there. You are able to search for passwords.excel, passwords.text, passwords.whatever. You can also use it to find inventory, equipment lists, other things. Or you can just say, you know what PDFs, what Excel files, what is located on this website. So you do that with directives. And you can do it by just typing in your directive. This directive is going to be site. And let's go with Penguin. Let's stay with Penguin here. And what do we want to find? We want to find file types, right? There's going to be tons of PDFs, but what's another file type we might be interested in? Text, or you can even find .c files. So if you were, so let's, C, and let's see what we find. So there's a drill sequence. There's, oh hey look, there's a solution. Maybe I should have using So let's roll with that for a moment, and I hope I don't get myself in too much trouble here. So say you're struggling in class. Hey, maybe we've got a little bit more information here. Some of this may be dated, but can you guys see the power of this? You can actually refine your search and get into more powerful, more specific areas. The other thing you can do with this is there are a lot of fairly well-known, I guess they call them Google dorks. I don't know why they call them dorks, but apparently these are called Google dorks when you find vulnerabilities based on your Google hacking. There are ones like, oh, Conrad should know this one. I don't know where would be a good place to find them, but say in title, we have index of. Conrad, can you tell me why that one might be important? Sorry, I know you know a little bit of Linux. I'm crossing my fingers.
You can get the map layout of the site.
Yep. So if you guys do your default installation of Apache, it will automatically give you a directory listing of any folder that does not have an index .php, HTML, HTM. If it doesn't have an index file, by default, it will instead show you a directory listing. This is very insecure because that allows people to browse your entire domain. So by searching intel index of, we can actually crawl their site, know the structure, be very, very set up to dig a lot deeper if we wanted to. I'm actually going to do that search. I'm going to show you guys. What's that?
Bunches of penguins, 439 Spencer.
One more time?
Oh, penguins, CSE 439.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of them as well.
Well, it's not always a security risk, but it's always a potential for us to have an in when we're trying to pen test. One of them that kind of surprised me that I thought was kind of neat is a lot of people don't do. So you guys know you can have wireless cameras, right? Well, their file is made up CGI and they'll have links to this in it. So now we have a listing of web accessible cameras that probably aren't supposed to be. What's the other bad thing people do with devices when it comes to securing them?
Default username and password.
Default username and password. Odds are we could probably pick a handful of these, look up the links to this documentation, and have full access to it. There was a security expert who in his spare time ran a scan of the web to see how many people had actually changed default usernames and passwords. And it was something like 53 or 60 some odd % of the internet was still running on default passwords. That's terrifying, but when we're trying to secure our systems, we're trying to find out what's wrong. This is how we can, if we know what our site is, we can specify a site, we can specify an URL, we can find our device. We can dig very deep into this, and using the site directive, base it on the site that we're looking at, the one that we're trying to secure. One of the other suggestions I've seen is you can specify in text. So what's something in text if you had classified or secret or redacted or things like that? That is the sort of things that you'd be able to search for in the text. You don't have to do it by yourself. You can use the power of Google to do a lot of your searching for you. Believe it or not, the search guys are pretty good at search. If you want a full list of these, just look up Google directives and it'll list underneath search operators. So you can check for things that are actually in anchor, in text, title, cache. Cache is nice because you don't even have to hit their site. You can just check Google's cache. So again, maybe get some outdated information that they meant to pull, and they have pulled, but Google got a cache of it. You can also check for related. This one's a handy one when you're doing search on a topic you're not familiar with and there could be multiple words. Instead, if you did like related for college, it'll also do any kind of synonyms with that. University, that's as far as my synonyms go. Image search, not as important, but you can also check group, checking for authors, things like that, directories, news, product search. You've got lots of them in here. And if you want to get a rough idea of, if you want to see them in the wild, and I will say this again, do not be malicious, do not use this for evil, nefarious purposes, but people go through and have the exploit DB. And inside of the exploit database, this is a listing of all current exploits that people are aware of, well, most people. There's the GHDB, this is the Google Hacking Database. And this will show you successful searches and what they've turned up. So you know that these are alive and kicking. These ones have all been selected here recently. Very helpful if somebody's trying to do security through obscurity and hide their admin file. If you just do search for site, specify the site, in title, admin, or login, you're going to find their login every time, even if it's hidden. Google's very good at crawling sites. Now I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. Does anybody know what file you can specify on your website to tell Google what it can and can't crawl?
Robots.
Yep, robots.txt. How could we use robots.txt?
It's a listing of files they have.
So yes, it's a listing of files they don't want you to look at. So what are we going to do? We're going to look at that. I I was looking for other ones earlier here, but Facebook was one of the best ones I saw here. So we know that they've got an Ajax, an album, they've got a lot of things here. And hey, do we all of a sudden know what language they're working in? Even though we already do, but you can get a lot of information just by looking around, seeing what you're not supposed to look at. And apparently you specify it for each different user agent. So kind of a cool deal there, right? You are getting information and reconnaissance on a website or on a company without ever even having to go there. They can't track you if you haven't been. Another cool tool is, has anybody heard of Glassdoor before? Glassdoor is instead of reviewing people, it reviews companies. People can anonymously post here what it's like to work at different companies. Target, work a lot for very little. Not the slogan they're going with in their next ad campaign, but it's the top line one. But people will complain about what they're doing. Hey, Genentech, this might have some interesting information. They can do pros, they can do cons. They're probably going to tell you about the software, the hardware, the programming language. Oh, I love this job, but I hate programming, and pick a language you don't like. Well, now you start to know some of the built-in infrastructure of what they've got and what you're going to have to refine your attacks down to. And then this one makes me kind of sad. The next one is ShodanHQ.com. Shodan HQ crawls the web to find exposed online devices, including webcams, routers, power plants, iPhones, wind turbines, refrigerators, and VoIP phones. I think they should have started with power plants.
Starting with refrigerator.
You know what, if your refrigerator is connected to the internet, I don't think you can complain if somebody hacks it. Because why in the world?
That's going to be huge, though, pretty soon.
They say. So those are some of the websites and tools that we can do to dig into things. But we can also use things like Whois. Does anybody know what Whois does?
Well, it tells you who's on your system, doesn't it?
Oh, well, when it comes to websites, it tells you who's registered to it. So if we go back in here to our virtual box, let's see if we are done. That's so. So maybe I'm being blocked by something. But if we do a Whois, penguin.ewu.edu. So we can't get to that one. Let's check EWU. This tells us who the technical contact is. That could be handy because if I need to call the help desk, I can say, hey, this is John McBeth. I can't say that name, it's the Scottish play that's evil. But you can pretend to be this gentleman. You can email this gentleman. You can try to spoof a similar email address to him. You can even call him. You can send him emails. You can prime phishing target right there.
What's the menu used for that?
What's that?
What's the menu used for that?
It's just Whois.
Oh, just whatever network.
Yep, Whois and whatever network you're looking for. If we scroll up here, it should have more information. Why do you not let me scroll? That makes sense. Okay. Well, you've got administrative contact. You've got all your contacts, your name servers, and how long they've been around and existing. One of the handy things you can do if you get to name servers, and we're not going to go into it today, but name servers keep the structure of an entire environment. That's what they do. They resolve the name to the IP address. So they are built to give you information. What do we want? Information. So now we're going to have the information if we can get the DNS to give us that. It's called a cross-domain transfer or domain transfer, and it basically tells us about every machine it's aware of. So unless they've got it configured correctly, unless they've got it locked down or secured, we can say, hey, tell me everybody you know, and it might just give us the entire network layout on the other side of the firewall. So it gets locked down a lot, but sometimes you have it open. DNS machines are apparently kind of scary too, is what I've been told. I haven't used one, so I guess I could consider them scary too. So a lot of people don't try to break what they don't. If it's working, don't fix it, basically. So DNS servers are notorious for running some of the oldest software on the internet and being unpatched and something people won't mess with until they have to. So, number one, very top way to get more information about your network. You can also use Dig. You know, if it's,
Type it into less.
what's that?
Type it into less.
I
Yeah.
should. Let's see. Dig will help you get the various. I should double check this one before. Okay. There's different types of records available on the internet for name resolution. There's authoritative, there's canonical. You can look them up. There's mail servers. There's lots of them. So you can use Dig to find more information on if they own EWU. They're probably going to own mail@.ewu, Penguin @ewu. Dig and related tools can help you dig in and find out what else is being served by these DNS servers, what other subdomains are there for possible exploits and attack vectors. And we can do even more with DNS records. But that gives you guys kind of the rough overview. And again, I talked a little longer than I thought I would. So now, if I can turn on the light, I'm going to power this off, and I've got kind of cool news. So, there. So, one of the hardest things about pen testing, especially learning how, is all we get is theory. All we can do is just mess around on our target machine. We don't want to go out there in the real world because we don't have permission. So, okay, great news, we have permission. We have a client who is willing to work with us and allow us to try everything we want against their website. And we're not getting paid or anything, but we're getting great experience doing it. So does that sound like kind of a cool deal?
Awesome.
Yeah. So the one, it's not even a downside. The one requirement for that is this is a website that has not quite launched yet, and it's kind of a new and exciting idea. So we all have to do confidentiality agreements. If you're uncomfortable doing one of those, don't worry. You can still attend and participate, but I can't give you the website, the name, or any of the activities to do with it. We have to keep that quiet. If you do participate and you sign this confidentiality agreement, it means you don't get to talk about the site. You can refer to them as our client, but no more than that. You don't get to talk about how they're doing things, how they're approaching things with anybody outside of the group here. We can bring people in as long as they're on the confidentiality agreement, they're fine, but they're getting ready to launch, and it's a cool deal, so they don't want the word getting out before they're ready for it to get out. So, I don't want to put you in the spot, but is anybody uncomfortable with the confidentiality agreement? Cool. All right, so what we're going to do then, if you guys are up for it in the next 20 minutes here, I'll have you guys sign off on these sheets. I'm going to give you guys the website and a couple of the rules for it, and we are going to start digging in, finding out what information we can find. We want to use the stuff that we found right here, and then we will be able to start researching against the clients here. As it goes, as we find vulnerabilities or as we discover things, they would like us to do some presentations. So if anybody's interested in presenting for a company, they have a really awesome office. It's down in there today. If anybody's interested in a company that's looking to hire a lot of Eastern grads just shortly as they ramp up, this is going to be a great place to do presentations for as well. So if you're graduating soon, this is a great thing to be involved in. So any questions? Okay. So. Here. Oh, and one other tool that I skipped because I didn't mean to. You know how we were doing how we were using HT-Track to mirror a website?
Yeah.
Has anybody ever been to archive.net? Is it .net or .com?
I think it might be .org.
Archive.org, that's the one. Has anybody ever been there? They do mirroring sites on the whole internet with multiple versions. If you want to go back in time, say somebody accidentally posted something 10 years ago, 2 years ago, it's possible that archive.org has a copy of it. You can look up penguin.ewu.edu on there, and that will show you all the old files, all the other stuff that was on there.
Use a server.
What's that?
Use their server.
is huge. It's gotta be huge.
It's God.
It's gotta be enormous. But the nice part about that is you can do an HD track without ever hitting it the first time. Somebody else has already done the mirroring. You don't have to worry about commission the rest of it. You get structure, you can look at the whole deal. It is missing some information because it is a snapshot more than a mirror, but it's a great place to start.
What was the least one you used to do the HD track?
Exactly what's up.
HD track.
Well, I know, I mean, just to capture the website, use the HD track.
And it's got a wizard. It'll walk you through. So I'm gonna have everybody sign off on these. And then I'm gonna turn off the video camera. And, here, would you mind handing the rest of this up? And I'm gonna get you the crucial information.